All right, we back at it like a crack addict, guys. Here we go. You could be anywhere else in the world, but you're here watching this. And if you're watching this with me, I appreciate you. Let's go ahead and let's study where we left off from the last stream. All right. You were born rich. Let's get into it. The balls. Pause. Why do we got to start at the balls? Hey, yo. All right, here we go.
On what we're going to
$10 can help fund powerful ads to reach undecided voters nationwide.
at home, and some of my son's buddies will come by. He'll always take them over. They'll say, "What's this?" And he'll take it and he'll say, "Well, you see, what this means, if you put a little bit in, you get a little bit out. But if you put a whole lot in, you get a whole lot out. That's just the way it works." Now, you see, we can make what is called a conscious choice here today on what we're going to take out of this program. If you wanted to spend a little bit of time trying to find out why this program won't work,
What's up, Mr. Juicy?
I guarantee you, you're going to find it. But there's only one reason you can ever find something wrong with anything. And that's because there must be something right with it. You see, you can't have one without the other. I mean, how would you know a good paycheck if you didn't know a bad paycheck? I mean, you can't have a hot without a cold. You can't have an up without a down, and in without an out.
That's what you got to tell your woman when she's sad, when she's mad, when she's crying. You got to tell her, "Listen, baby, at the end of the day, you get the best of the best. So if you get the best of the best and you get the highest highs and you are the happiest and you feel the best you've ever felt in your life, then you also got to feel a little saddest sometimes, because there's no light without dark."
I mean, all the books we use here, if you look at the book Bob was using, Think and Grow Rich, it has an inside and an outside. It has back, has front. And you know, most interesting thing that I found about that is not too long ago, I was doing a seminar out in Calgary, and I was at a place called the Portugal Inn. And you know, I was standing down in the basement there doing this seminar in a place like this, but there was fewer people. And at the back of the room, there was this beautiful, magnificent glass window, and as you looked through it, you could see the magnificence of the mountains. And all along the top of the mountains, you could see the beautiful snow-capped tops and the peaks, and the sun was just bouncing.
By the way, for those of you who just joined and don't know what's going on, I'm watching a seminar. We're going to go ahead and break it down. I'm going to give you guys my takes on it. He basically talks about the mind, understanding the human mind a lot better so that you can see better results in your life. That's pretty much it. Let's get right into it.
Right off the top of those mountains. And I made an analogy quickly. I said, isn't it interesting that the only reason we...
Really quick, I don't mean to pause it so much, but the reason why you need to study is because if you want to get to the next level in life, it really is all about what you don't know. Right now, I'm working with a guy, and for 23 years, he couldn't lose the fat. And suddenly, all of a sudden now, I gave him the right blueprint. I gave him everything he needs to know. And suddenly, he's dropping the fat like crazy. Now, he went from 210 to 204 in a matter of days. And he hadn't known this for years. So what you need to understand from that is that your next level up is all about the knowledge that you don't know yet.
We can appreciate the magnificence of that mountain is because it is sitting in what is called a valley. Now, folks, everybody here today has the ability to do just one of three things. You have the ability to take anything that you're going to hear. I mean, as you sit there, you can take and gather all this information and you can completely reject it. You can do that. Or you can take all the information and you can neglect it. And that's what a lot of people do. They get it and they neglect it. Or you can take the information and you can accept it. Now, I'm going to make a suggestion to all of you. I want you to just sit there and really think about this. Don't accept what you hear. Don't reject what you hear. And please don't neglect what you hear. But you know, folks, only a fool would not take an idea, examine that idea, kick that idea around to see if it will change, see if it will alter, or see if it will improve the end result.
And this is why when you have a closed mind, you will not grow. Listen to what he just said. You have to take an idea and be willing to at least examine it, right? Because most people aren't willing to take in new ideas. They're so stuck on their set of beliefs, and most of the times they don't understand that that's what's holding them back in life from growing to the next level and becoming the most optimal version of themselves. So at the end of the day, you have to be willing to accept new ideas and really examine it. It's like when people, you tell them depression isn't real. Their mind is so stuck on this belief that they would rather stay depressed, be out of shape, be poor, do all these things, get no women, than to examine the idea of depression not being real. At least examine it. Don't just immediately fight it off. Say, how could this add value to my life? If I believe in this as opposed to my set of beliefs, how will this add value to my life? My set of belief right now, I'm sad, I'm down, I'm depressed, I'm lonely. This set of belief, depression is not real. Well, how does that work? At least start asking questions. And then eventually you see, okay, depression not being real, that's a good set of belief because it actually allows you to go through life without being so caught up in your emotions. So examine your ideas and see if your beliefs are something that you could actually learn new things and grow from there.
For a happier, healthier, more productive life. Now, I've always felt that, and I guess I've learned this over a number of years, that the biggest task that I have almost every day of my life is that I have to take an idea that I have and communicate that idea to another individual in a way that will enrich their life. And you could say that that's not
And that's a super valuable skill to have. Listen to what he just said.
the easiest thing in the world to do, but you know, it is simple. And I guess the best story that illustrates this goes something like this.
And I'll tell you exactly what he just said about how he has to learn how to communicate his ideas to make another person understand it and add value to their life. I'll tell you exactly how I did it. Through these videos on YouTube, I've perfected and I've mastered my speaking abilities. I wouldn't say perfected because I believe that there's always room for growth, but I've definitely came a long way. And it's all through my YouTube videos, because all my YouTube videos all this is right now is simply just my thoughts being spoken out into words. And if you want, take a piece of paper, write out your thoughts all day, every day. And after a while, you'll be able to take your thoughts and speak them out. Because most people, it's not that they can't speak, it's that they don't know how to speak their thoughts. Because all of us, we all have thoughts. Even the socially awkward person, he has thoughts. He has thoughts running through his mind all day. But one, he's not confident in himself. Two, he's afraid to say what he believes in. And three, he doesn't know how to put together the sentences to actually add value to other people's lives. So it's a very valuable skill to have because we all have thoughts. You just have to learn how to communicate them.
There was a professor one time showed up at a university like this one, and he walked in the back door and all his colleagues grabbed him. He was at a convention. And they said, "Doctor, are we ever glad you're here?" He said, "Well, what's going on?" He said, "Well, there's 500 people here and the guest speaker hasn't shown up." Said, "And you've been announced as the guest speaker." "Oh, now hold on a minute." He said, "I'm not one to go out there and give a talk in front of all my colleagues." But he said, "What's the subject?" He said, "That's the thing, you see. You're the only one that showed up without your spouse. That's why you're giving the talk." Well, he said, "What is it?" Said, "The subject's on sex." "Oh, no, not me. I'm not going up there in front of all those people who know me." No, just then his name was announced, and up he went. He got up and he stood behind that lectern there, and he just gave a 40-minute performance, just knocked your socks up. And after it was all over, got a standing ovation, away he went home, felt pretty good. He said, "I should get on the circuit here." I know a lot of people like that. And he walked in the door, and his wife, Martha, greeted him there with a big hug and a kiss, and she said, "Well, dear, how'd the convention go?" Said, "Well, dear, as a matter of fact, it was great. I was the guest speaker." Said, "Dear, you don't know anything about speaking." "I knew that. They didn't know that. Went along great." Said, "Well, dear, what'd you talk about?" Now, he's not a dumb guy, right? He said, "Honey," he said, "I'll be up all night if I tell her." Oh, he said, "Honey, I talked about sailing." George, you don't know anything about sailing. Well, I knew that, and they didn't know that. And they seemed to like it. Well, off they went to bed. Now, the next day, Murph is out doing the shopping. And so are all the girls that were at the convention. Now, just to show you how two people are talking about who they think they're talking about the same thing, but in reality, they're not. They only think they are, but they have two different ideas. And they all spotted Martha, and they ran over and they said, Martha, we didn't know Charlie was such an authority on the subject.
They thought that man Charlie was donkey fucking that pussy left, right, and center. They thought that motherfucker was beating them doonies down, straight up. But his wife doesn't even know what they're talking about. Whole time they're thinking, damn, that boy know how to lay it down.
Oh, she said, girls, he isn't really the old fool. He only did it twice. And you know what? The first time, his hat fell off, and the second time, he fell over the side. Now, there were two people who thought they were talking about the same thing. Well, the idea that we're working with here today is to take an idea we have, transfer that idea to you as an individual. But there's only one way we can do that. Is you've got to kind of let go of the resistance. You've got to hang a little bit loose because it is somewhat disturbing. Some of the information disturbs people sometimes. It really does. It actually does. Was a Bishop Sheen, was giving a great talk every Sunday afternoon. And one Sunday afternoon he was giving the talk, fellow put his hand up in the air and said, hold a minute, Bishop, you don't believe all that jazz, do you?
Fuck it, I'm drinking coffee.
Oh, he said, I believe it.
I know it's about to be 12 o'clock, but I don't give a fuck. I'm on stream right now. I'm drinking some fucking coffee. Fuck it. I'm staying up all night.
At all. Said, come on, Bishop, you don't believe that story that Jonah was in the stomach of the whale? Ah, he said, I believe it, Bishop. I said, come on, Bishop, not Jonah in the stomach of the whale. I said, come on, you're a grown man. No, he said, I believe it. He said, well, tell me, Bishop, how are you going to prove it? Well, he said, I'll tell you what. When I get to heaven, I'll ask him. Say, yeah, but Bishop, what if you don't find him there? He said, then you can ask him. So you see, if you want to reject it, you want to neglect it, go ahead. I know the information works. On page 3, at the very top, the suggested use of this program, and you know, Bob mentioned earlier that I've actually taken these ideas and I've made them work. As a matter of fact, I can remember when I first picked up the information from this program, I believe it was Earl Nightingale's Lead the Field. And I was given a suggested use of how to use that program, which took 5 minutes. Bob was working with Nightingale at that time, I wasn't. And he sold me a program for $245. That was back in 1968. That was a lot of money in 1968. That's a lot of money today for a lot of people. And he said, now here's what you do. You take this tape, put it in your cassette player. I didn't have one of those. And he said, what you do is turn the cassette on because it wasn't a popular thing in cars. But he said, you listen to the first tape all week. Then go to the second one and listen to that all week. That was the suggested use of the program at that time. So you see, I watched this program grow up. Not only grow up, but I've been able to take it and maximize it more than any individual I know that has ever gone through this seminar. And I can say that, and I can say it with conviction, I can say it with commitment. So let me just walk you through a couple of steps. Born Rich is the beginning of an exciting journey you're about to take. And like all journeys, which are properly planned and completely enjoyed, you must have these 4 basic points. You got to work these 4 basic points. See, it's the old idea that there are 2 simple words that we could implement to really get the results we want. The first one is called order. Order. Order is the very first law of creation.
Order.
And the second word is movement. And when you have order and movement working in your life, what begins to happen is there's a pattern of growth that begins to develop. You see, I think that we try to get here without first covering or bridging the gap of these steps along the way. So if we have the order And the order is to make a decision that no matter where I am, no matter how well I am doing, I can do better, and I'm going to set an objective to bring about that order. And then we use the movement, which is known as a system, and I believe that Born Rich is a system. I don't believe it, I know it. You only have to believe something till you understand it, then you don't have to believe it anymore. But belief is the fuel to get you off the ground. So the first step, it anymore. I don't believe it, I know it. You only have,
I don't believe it, I know.
and I believe that Born Rich is a system. I don't believe it, I know it. You only have to believe something till you understand it, then you don't have to believe it anymore. But belief is the fuel to get you off the ground. Then you don't have to believe the system. I don't believe it, I know it. You only have to believe something till you understand it, then
You only have to believe something until you understand it. That's true.
you don't have to believe it anymore. But belief is the fuel to get you off the ground.
I believe that I can win in business. And then you see that you actually proven with results. And then you say, I know I can do this. I know I can do that. I know I can, whatever the case may be. First you believe and then you know.
So the first step, a clear understanding of where the journey begins. A very clear understanding of where the journey begins. And I don't know anybody that'll do that more effectively than Robert when he comes back up to start going through the basic concept and the creative process. Number 2, checkpoints en route to help you stay on course. You see, I believe we know, for the most part, a lot of us what we want. And as Napoleon Hill said time and time again in this great book, he said, you must know what you want, why you want it, when you want it, and an idea on how you're going to get it. You must know what you want, you must know why you want it, you must know, he said, when you want it, and he said you must have an idea on how you're going to get it. So we need checkpoints en route to help us stay on course. Number 3, a clear understanding of your destination. I believe one of the greatest definitions that I've...
That's true. When I help someone lose weight, first you got to ask them why do they want to lose weight. After, you have to put together a plan on what they're going to do and how long is it going to take to achieve it. So that way you know you're on track and you know you're hitting everything like you're supposed to be hitting it and you're going to get there. It's just a matter of time.
I've ever heard of success in my life is that success is not a destination, never has been, but it is something called a journey. It has always been what is called a journey. It is not something you get, it is something you're becoming. It never ends. It's infinite in terms of growth. And number 4, a commitment. You know, I've spent a lot of time studying, as everyone else, books such as In Search of Excellence, In Pursuit of Excellence.
In Search of Excellence. I have to look that book up because let's look it up real quick. In Search of Excellence. Gotta see what it's about. Might have to read it. In Search of Excellence. Lessons from America's best run companies. Okay. All right.
About excellence. And you know, excellence is perhaps one of the most important words in your life. But one of the reasons for that is because Paul knew about excellence 20 years ago. His company, they published something called In Search of Excellence and The Pursuit of Excellence. But what does the word mean? I hear people say excellence in this, excellence in that. What does the word mean to you?
To me, excellence means doing it at the highest level, the most optimal version. That is excellence. When you're excellent at something, you're doing it at the highest level. That's what I believe it is.
Well, I got to tell you what the word really means. It means a commitment to completion. Folks, you never ever want to forget that. Excellence is simply a commitment to completion. The steps are not easy, but the understanding of the steps are easy. If you remember, it's a commitment to completion. That means completing the things around home. It means completing the things at your work. It means completing the commitments in your personal life.
What do I talk to you guys about all the time? What do I talk to you guys about the challenge that I've made? I'm doing the 90 optimal days. It's simply exactly what he's saying. I just say it in a bit of a different way about keeping your word with yourself. Why? Because I'm going to be doing an hour of listening to a book. That's why I'm on here doing it with you guys on stream. I'm going to be eating strictly to the protein that I need. I'm going to be getting a workout in every day. I'm going to wake up at the time I said I'm going to wake up. All these things. I'm going to take a progress pic and a 10-minute video. And you guys should do it as well. It's all about just keeping your word. But he says completing the task or completing the mission or whatever the case may be. So I'm telling you guys this all the time.
It's a commitment to completion. You will agree a person would be very foolish to tell themselves they are presently in Atlanta, Georgia, and their destination is Dallas. If, in fact, they were actually in Calgary, Alberta, with Dallas, Texas as their destination.
I see what he's saying. You got to know and you got to be realistic about where you're at in order to go where you want to be. So I get what he's saying. You got to be realistic with yourself. For example, like if someone is out of shape, right? And they're trying to lose the weight and they're 300 pounds and you ask them, hey, how much do you weigh? And they tell you, oh, I weigh 200 pounds. They're lying to themselves. Just like he said, you could be in Calgary and you want to go to Dallas, but you're telling yourself you're in Georgia or whatever the fuck he said. You're lying to yourself. So when someone lies to themselves, first of all, not only are they ignoring where they're actually at, but what they don't understand is they're not going to get to where they want to be because they're not being truthful with themselves. Everything depends on where you are right now. Everything works around that.
Do you know how many people that are trying to set a goal, they don't know where they're at, consequently they don't know how to get there? Unbelievable as this may seem, this is the classical error millions of people make philosophically with their lives. They are not completely honest with themselves when it comes to recognizing where they presently are. Where they presently are.
And to be honest with you, the times when I've grown the most in my life is when I was brutally honest with myself. When I was truly brutally honest. When my social skills were lacking, what most people do, and when most people have social anxiety and all these things, they will completely try to disregard it. Just like put it in the dark and forget about it. But what you have to understand, and this is something that I did and I faced on my own, when my social skills were lacking, when I couldn't speak very well, I had to be honest with myself. When my confidence was low and my confidence was lacking for good reasons, I had to be honest with myself. I had to tell myself, your confidence kind of sucks. Your social skills kind of suck. You could be better. Your body is shit. You could be better. You're addicted to drugs. You're a bum. I had to tell myself these things in order to improve. If I wasn't honest with myself, then I can't grow. That's why if you see the video I posted the other day where I was talking to this guy on like the Omegle app, and we were talking about how he's out of shape. I told him he's undisciplined, and he's like, no, I'm disciplined. Although his body is literally showing that he's not a disciplined man. So people will deny that. People will deny that side of them. But in order to change, you have to be honest with yourself. The truth hurts.
Honest answers to every question and serious consideration to every exercise and suggestion will clearly indicate 3 points. And this is what this program is about, is these 3 points. Where your journey begins. That's number 1. Number 2, the mental adjustments that must be made. The mental adjustments that must be made. Let me give you an example. Anytime working with a young person, I just love working with young people. They only have to understand what a mental adjustment is, and they'll make it quicker than you and I. Are you aware that your kids, they only have to what is called make up their mind. You and I have to change our mind. We can teach them how to make a mental adjustment, and here is the major mental adjustment.
And that's why it's so hard for people to break their habits, because at the end of the day, like he said, a child, what do you do with a child? You teach them, you program them, you tell them what they need to believe in or what they need to do, and they'll just take that programming because they're a blank slate. But when you've already been programmed and you already have programming from your parents, from the church, from society, from the schools, from the news, from the media, from your friends, from all the influence you've been programmed already as an adult, it's a lot harder to change your mind. It takes something shocking, something that slaps you in the face to snap out of it. That's what happens. A lot of people snap out of it once they go through some real shit. And until they go through something that is painful, internally painful, they won't change. Because that pain is what needs to slap them in the face and wake them up. And that's when they can start questioning things and start questioning their beliefs. And then they can change their mind. But when you're comfortable, you already have all these beliefs. And it's going to be hard to change your mind. It's going to be hard to switch it up.
That all of us have to make. Simple one. You must regard all adversity. You must regard all circumstance, all conditions in your life. If you could look at it as though it were an investment in which you can attract and learn more about growth in your life. It's an investment only. What a difference we'd find in everything that we do. And number 3, approximate time it will take to complete the journey. The approximate time it will take to complete the journey. Now, before you become emerged in your born...
Approximate time it's going to take to complete the journey. Right now, I'm working with my client, and he started at 210, and he's already at 204, and he's going to be at 170. And the estimated time is in 8 weeks. So just like he said, you have to know why you're doing something, you have to know what you're going to do, and you have to know by what time you're going to achieve it.
Born Rich program. Form the attitude that this program has been prepared especially for you. This is for you. This is not for me. This is not, it's just not for me only. It's not for Bob. It's for you. Especially prepared for you. Imagine that the author, that the speaker is a clear, personal friend whom you have chosen as your mentor. I wonder how many of us have a mentor. I always say when a program ends, it's the beginning. It really is. It says, make a commitment to yourself that you will follow every instruction necessary to alter. And you're going to hear this word so often. To alter your old conditioning. Now I want you to think, what is old conditioning? Do you know, any time that you get these buried pain remembrances, these nagging little things that grab us when we're trying to do something, or that tell us we can't do it, why we can't do it, and all these things that are just kind of like grabbing at us, these doubts and worries, that's your conditioning.
That's what you've been conditioned to do. When you're afraid to talk to women, when you're afraid to start that business, when you're afraid to quit your job, when you're afraid of talking to people and you're socially anxious, this is all a part of your conditioning, just like he's saying.
You know, I'd give anything if a person would just grab hold of one idea. This one simple idea. Any time that you get feedback telling you why you can't do something, if only, folks, you could remember it's not a reflection of your potential or you as a person, but it is a reflection of your conditioning. I'd give anything for a person just to understand that. When you get that old feeling that you can't do something, you can only remember it's a reflection of your conditioning and not a reflection of your potential. Now I want you to think about this. Everybody is familiar with the great Bruce Lee, perhaps the greatest martial artist that ever lived.
I love this quote. You guys need to hear what he's about to say. Bruce Lee, apparently he said this. Who knows? We'll see. But listen up. Some real shit right here.
And you know, he was also a great teacher. And very often they'd come to him and they'd say, could you tell us, Master, how we could be a great martial artist like you? Now he would take them out into a little gym and he would go through some of his moves. And what he was doing is he was trying to find out where they are. Because he said most people had the wrong information about martial arts. Just like many people have the wrong information about this word success. This word success, this progressive realization of a worthy ideal. And after he'd take them through the little exam, he would sit down at a table, he'd put them on one end. He'd sit on the other end. And he'd put in front of them a glass of Coke. He'd say, I want you to look at that and let it represent. Think about it now. He said, I want you to let this glass of Coke represent your knowledge. This is what you know to be the truth.
A bunch of shit.
And he said, I want you to let this clear water,
the truth,
represent what is the truth. This is my knowledge. This is what I've learned.
And when you have that knowledge, which is the truth, it shows in your results. When you have this knowledge that is quite frankly shit, like he's saying, the glass on the left is shit knowledge, your results are going to show that.
And he said, this is what you want from me. This is what you want. I want you to think about one step here. How often have we looked into the lives of other people and we see things that we truly admire? We look at maybe their person, what I'd give to be like that individual. We look at what they have and we say, what I would give to have what they have.
Listen to the quote he's about to say because it's fire.
We look at what they do and we say, what I would give to do what they do. Folks, if we only knew, what we're looking at are nothing more but our own rejected thoughts. They accepted thoughts that we have rejected. So this is what Bruce said. I can't give you my knowledge because, you see, there's too much of yours. However, he said, if you are prepared to let go of yours and make room for mine, then we can work together.
You see what he just said? And I fuck with this quote heavy because at the end of the day, your beliefs, if you believe in something so strongly that you are closed-minded to any new ideas, you cannot learn new things. You cannot grow. You cannot grow from someone who might even be at a higher level than you and is willing to teach you, but your beliefs are so set in stone. And I don't think that every single belief, I think there's some beliefs that you should stand on. Like I stand on certain beliefs. However, I'm still willing to take in the information, examine the thoughts, think about it, and see how it could add value to my life. And then you choose from there. But at the end of the day, you can't have a mind full of beliefs and then expect to learn from other people and grow. You can't do it.
But as long as you hold on to this, I can't give you this. Think about it. Are you prepared to let go of what you've learned? And by that, I don't mean to just cast it aside, but to examine it. And to take a new idea that you will hear in 2 days here. A new idea. And to examine that idea, entertain that idea, to see if it will change, alter, and or improve the end result for a happier, healthier, more prosperous life. If you're prepared to do that, this program will really, really work for you. Will really work for you. Would you go back to the book with me, please? Second last paragraph. Rather than merely listening to the messages, questions and exercises, think. Think deep, penetrating thoughts. Ask yourself, what does this mean to me? How can I apply this idea to my life? Remember, not how can I...
Think about that. How can you apply that idea to your life? Exactly what he just said. Don't just listen to it, but actually think about how you can apply it and how it applies to your life. What knowledge do you have that might be holding you back? That maybe if you learn something new could take you to a newer level. Think about that.
I apply it to someone else's life. How can I apply this idea to personal growth and development in my life? Because the simple basic laws of life are create or disintegrate. We're either moving forward or we're going backwards. And the last paragraph, set aside a definite period of time every day, weekends and holidays included, for the proper use of your Born Rich program. In other words, make a decision. See, folks, we don't have as many problems as we have decisions to make. By that, I'm not asking or suggesting that you should discount your problems. I would never suggest that. But you know, I am suggesting that you have the talent, the ability, the potential to handle and to deal with your problems. So do we have as many problems as we have decisions to make? It says, for the proper use of your Born Rich program, you must set aside different times to work with it. You eat every day to nourish your body. Look at your Born Rich program as a form of healthy nourishment. For your marvelous mind.
If you're watching this right now, understand that you could be anywhere else in the world. You could be watching YouTube videos that are brain rotting you. You could be jerking off. You could be on the hub. You could be doing anything. You could be partying. But studying is going to help you grow as a person. So you're doing the right thing.
And use it daily until its use becomes habitual. Until its use becomes habitual. Now, in 2 minutes, I'm going to bring Bob up to go through the basic concept, which is the real star of this program, is what you're going to see on the board. It's what it's all about. The first time I was introduced to this concept, believe me, it hit me. I had such impact on me. Didn't change anything right away, but it showed me a way to do it. In 1973, I had something written on a goal card. Had something written on a goal card. And on that goal card, there was something very interesting. I said, on March the 1st, 1973, what I wanted to do was this very program. Now, at that time, I could not lead this group, you could say, in silent prayer. I could not have led this group in silent prayer. Could not. But I wrote on it that March the 1st, this is what I was going to do. Now, when February the 28th rolled around, now I tell you this for your benefit, not mine, for your benefit, because someone sitting here today is probably thinking exactly what I was thinking, but maybe in a different area. I had absolutely no credentials to do this. None. Absolutely none. And for 4 years prior, wherever Robert was doing a seminar, I'd be there.
What's going on, Chad?
Paul Hutsey knows that.
Are you driving way less than you used to?
Nope.
Do you have a clean driving record? Are you over 25?
I'd fly wherever he'd fly. I'd go wherever he was, and I'd sit in the front row. I have at home maybe a couple of thousand workbooks from seminars. A couple of thousand. Notes all through them. Some of them can't even read them anymore. Now,
that's a big part. If you're going to read books, make notes. Make notes about every little thing that you see, because most people will read a book and then just say, okay, I read the book. No, you have to take small little nuggets from the book. There's a bunch of nuggets throughout the book. That's the point of reading a book. And then you take those small nuggets and you apply it to your life to see growth.
On February the 28th, after 4 to 5 years of a lot of pain, and there was, 4 to 5 years of a lot of traveling, and there was, a whole lot. There was a lot of things. You know what really happened? On February the 28th, I was no closer to the goal. Now remember, it was 1 day away. 1 day away. I was no closer to the goal. After 5 years. Kind of disheartening and discouraging, isn't it? So this is what happened. I got a phone call from Chicago. It was Robert on February the 28th, 1973. And he said, John, I got some bad news for you. I can't get to Toronto. Chicago is closed. He said, you're going to have to do the seminar in the morning. Now, here it was. It's what I always wanted to do. And the first thing that hit me was fear.
Yep.
Panic.
So you got to understand this. You see this man right here. He seems like a good speaker, right? He seems like a great public speaker. But what you need to understand about everyone is that everyone at some point might be instilled with a little bit of fear, a little bit of doubt. So when you see someone who you believe to be great at something, understand that they have the same thoughts that you have. It's just about how they go about handling them, right? Because I could feel nervous and I could handle it a lot better than someone who feels nervous and just shuts down from the nervousness. I could feel the same feeling that you feel, but it's just about how you go about handling it. Do you control your mind or does your mind control you?
I remember giving him a gold card, and he said, you obviously had something to do with the Chicago airport closing. But to the day, it worked. Even though all the appearances said it wouldn't work. But you know what? I made a decision. This was my knowledge. This was his. I had to get rid of mine to get his. That's what you're going to have to do. Today and tomorrow. So what do you say we bring Robert back up for the remainder of the morning to really get this creative process rolling? Bob? So what do you say we bring Robert? Bob?
I want to suggest now that you really put on your thinking hat.
Put on your thinking hat, guys, all right? Make sure you put it on.
I have a paper here that was written by a gentleman who has since passed away. He was a great Canadian. His name was Dr. Lawrence Rampell. And when I first moved back to Canada from the United States about 8 years ago, Dr. Rampell was sitting right here where Mr. Kavuk, the great photographer, is sitting.
Kavuk.
And this man took more notes than anyone I had ever seen in a seminar. I honestly thought if I could have got a copy of his notes, that I would have probably had a transcript of what I was saying. Now, I made up my mind I'd get to know him after the seminar was over. I wanted to know.
Yeah, that's when you know someone is serious, when they don't have to be motivated to write something, or when they're not just sitting there, you know, when they're actually sitting there studying, writing shit down. That's how you know someone's serious.
Why he wanted to have all this written. And he introduced himself as Dr. Rampell. I asked him if he was a medical doctor. He said no. And I said, are you a dentist? He said no. And I said, are you a chiropractor? He said no. I said, you want to play 20 questions? And he laughed, you know. And he said no, he had a doctorate's degree in thinking. Now, do you know, he had the only doctorate's degree in thinking that had ever, up till that time, come out of the University of Toronto. It took him 11 years to get it. Every time he went to go down a road, somebody would put a block up in front of him and say, no one has a doctorate's degree in thinking. Now, that's rather odd, especially when you consider that thinking is the highest function of which a human being is capable, and all the great leaders, all down through history, have been in complete and unanimous agreement that you and I become what we think about.
Yeah, most people don't use their thinking, and critical thinking is a skill that you have to develop, because at the end of the day, if you don't think, then what is your mind even there for? Because your mind is the greatest, most powerful tool that you have. But if you don't think, then you're not really putting good use to that one tool that is what separates us from animals, right? Because our mind, we can think and we can strategize. Animals can't.
Now play with that for a moment. It's a subject that is not taught in school. It's the highest function of which we're capable. And every great leader that has ever lived all told us that you and I become what we think about most of the time. Dr. Rampell wrote a paper, Tools for Teaching Thinking. He said thinking is a skill which can be learned just as we learn skills such as typing and playing the piano. Now, he said few public schools offer courses devoted expressly to teaching thinking. Rather, we are expected to learn and teach thinking as a byproduct of learning mathematics, reading, science, history, trade, and so forth. And he said we do, in fact, learn a lot about thinking in this way.
All right, y'all, that's the stream for tonight. I got to go to sleep. Got to wake up early. So, I'm going to catch y'all tomorrow. Peace out.